I know everyone from Jake Tapper to Ben Stiller is having a hizzy fit right now. Don Lemon, I mean, this is the hill they want to die on, this clown? And by the way, where were any of these concerned, principled, democracy-supporting Americans when the Biden administration arrested only the conservatives who entered the Capitol on January 6th? Remember that? I mean, that's something nobody's talking about. And we ought to bring that up. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program, The What's Right Show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, the only law firm to trust for your injury case. 800-304-2000. That's the number. samandashlaw.com, because you deserve what's right. So obviously in our top 5 news stories today, this arrest of Don Lemon. I'll get into all the particulars of it here in a minute, but this is one of the important data points to remember, and it is a retort to all of these people who are beside themselves, declaring that this is an end of democracy, that Trump has devolved into Vladimir Putin, and that this is the end of the First Amendment as we know it. Go back to January 6th. Go back here. I mean, I got a list here, which is fascinating. Here are, and I'm just going to read you a list. I've got the names, but here's a list of the media outlets whose reporters were charged for entering the Capitol on J6. All right, Blaze News, InfoWars, Independent, a guy here who was a streamer and a former BuzzFeed employee, Insurgents USA, Murder the Media News, let's see here, and the Armenian Council for Truth and Journalism. Now, here are the reporters who were not arrested. Okay, here are their outlets: the New York Times, the New Yorker, CNN, the LA Times, PBS, NBC, Politico, Axios, Reuters. You following the drift here? You know, I remember when this was. I remember when this happened. You remember a guy, Blaze Media, Steve Baker. I like bringing up Baker for an important reason, because he didn't get arrested until 3 years after J6. And do you know why? He got arrested in what was that, March of 2024. And you know why? He was arrested as soon as he wrote a story questioning the official narrative of J6. Baker and his supporters pointed to evidence. They said, look, I got the timing of the arrest coincided exactly with his investigative reporting on potential FBI and Capitol Police irregularities. Now think about this. Again, where was Jake Tapper? Where were any of these clowns that are falling over themselves today to condemn the arrest of Don Lemon? Where were any of these people when Baker was arrested? So this is all phony. It's all fake. It's all nonsense. It's fugazi. None of it matters. There's no principle here. He was arrested under the FACE Act. You know that there have been Americans who have gone to prison, arrested and charged and convicted under the FACE Act for merely praying, and some even just singing in the hallway in front of an abortion clinic. Now think about that. Not obstructing the entrance, not preventing from, not intimidating people, literally sitting and quietly praying. And these people were convicted. These were Americans sent to prison. The issue here is twofold. One, this attack on the church 2 weeks ago was intended to terrorize Christian worshipers of faith from going to church. The people were targeted because of their beliefs and because of their race. And these stupid mother effers, meaning the protesters, were so dumb that they put their intentions on camera. And Don Lemon said as much, again, on tape. You can play it. We will play it. We're going to go over it. We'll analyze it. I'll tell you exactly the moment he done effed up. And that's where we're at. And by the way, I mean, this the magistrate that refused to sign the warrant, fine, it goes up to the appeals court. The appeals court didn't refuse to issue the warrant either. What happened was the appeals court looked at it and said, yes, this is defective. It needs to go back and he needs to sign it. When he didn't sign, he goes, okay, well, you can also go to a grand jury. And they did that. And they got the indictment. Strong arm tactics. If anything, it shows that the system is fundamentally designed to protect the liberals. It's fundamentally designed to protect the status quo, to protect the people in power. And these protesters, these insurrectionists, quite frankly, these domestic terrorists that are opposing ICE, that are wreaking havoc in Minnesota and beyond, have the support of the establishment. They have the support of the Democratic power structure. And they're using it all to their advantage. This is fundamentally what the story is about. So I again bring up, if anybody goes to this, well, yeah, Don Lemon, how dare, this is so atrocious and terrible. Think about this. Going back to the Biden administration, they decided to put only the reporters in jail who contradicted the official Biden administration position on J6. If you disagreed with Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, if you disagreed with the House Select Committee's conclusion on J6, well, then you went to jail. And it is actually those series of arrests that are ripe for challenge under the First Amendment, because the First Amendment says you cannot be treated differently. You cannot get punished based on the subject or the content of your speech. And when you have reporter A and reporter B in the same place, entering the same building at the same time, under the same circumstances, and they're treated differently, and the only obvious separation between the two is that one reporter is writing for the LA Times and is writing a perfect narrative on how democracy was almost stolen, but for the valiant efforts of a handful of Capitol Police and Mike Pence. Right. And there's nothing to see here. Who are these agitators? Who are these masked people? Who are these guys in khaki pants? No idea. They never got arrested. We don't know their names. Don't ask any of those questions. Those reporters get a pass. And then the very people that are there side by side who are not even independent people, not independent like Don Lemon, but are with publications like The Blaze that are real publications. These are people who are getting rounded up. Some as late as 3 years down the road, once they have begun publishing things that are not pleasing to the Biden people. So all of this is, to me, is so fascinating. Now, all right, the Don Lemon thing. Let's get into this here. By the way, he's not the only person that was arrested today. There's another independent journalist, Georgia Frost, that was arrested. Also, Trey Hearn, Gene Cruz, a St. Paul activist, and Jamel Liddell Lundy. This Jamel works at the Hennepin County Attorney's Office as a affairs coordinator. So another county prosecutor, someone from the county prosecutor's office involved in this. You'll remember last week, Nikema Levy Armstrong, a prominent Minnesota civil rights attorney and activist who has been described as a key activist and organizer of this, was also arrested, along with Chantel Louisa Allen, who is on the school board of St. Paul Public Schools, and William Kelly, another activist there. You'll remember he was the guy with the crazy hair and beard. We've played a number of clips by him. So here's what it is. They're being charged under the FACE Act, and it's all to me, it's very, very straightforward. They went in and they deliberately sought to prevent people from worshiping at church. And this is what the FACE Act intends. I got a quick break here. Got to take a moment, but let me explain to you the analysis of this and why this is actually a sound prosecution when we return. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, don't worry. More of the What's Right show up next.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here with a word about Sam and Ash Injury Law. You know what I'm going to say, folks. You know where I'm going with this. Don't go at it alone. Don't handle your case on your own. The insurance company will run you around, waste your time, and then leave you up to thousands of dollars in the hole. Trust me, I've seen it happen, and I talk to people every week who have had that happen to them. Don't be a victim twice. Don't let it happen to you. Also, just take your time back. Your time is valuable. You've got a job. You've got kids, family, whatever. You've got things to do. Don't waste it the next, however many weeks or months filling out paperwork, sending faxes, giving recorded statements, all this stuff that in the end they'll just use against you. Don't do it. Don't waste your time. And make sure that you're financially protected. Sam and Ash Injury Law doesn't cost any money up front. A quick phone call and Sam and Ash starts working on your case immediately. It's that easy. 800-304-2000. 800-304-2000. Sam and Ash Injury Law, offices in Nevada and California. Call the number, get help. Doesn't cost any money up front. Free consultation. Easy peasy. 800-304-2000. samandashlaw.com, because you deserve what's right. All right. Sam Mirejovsky here, back behind the What's Right microphone. So I just want to analyze this here as a lawyer and tell you about this Don Lemon filing here. The indictment. So he was charged. Okay, let me just roll it. Conspiracy to deprive rights, which is USC Section 241. And then there is the FACE Act, which is USC 248. And the relevant parts of the FACE Act, I'll start there. What the law says is this. Anyone who, and this is a quote, by force or threat of force or by physical obstruction intentionally injures, intimidates, or interferes with, or attempts to injure or intimidate or interfere with any person lawfully exercising or seeking to exercise the First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of religious worship. Now, this was enacted in 1994. This is not new law. But let's take this apart, right? I want to explain it to you. So sometimes when you read statutes, there's a lot of words. And so I like to break things down so we understand exactly what those words sort of structurally mean. By force or threat of force or by physical obstruction, okay? So it's either force, which would imply some form of assault, okay? Pushing, shoving, anything like that, okay? or by threat of force. Okay, I'm going to punch you if you don't do X, or if, whatever happens. Okay, that would be a threat of force. Or physical obstruction. Now, let's just put a pause in there. Remember seeing the videos from that church attack? There were, what was it, 30 or 40 people that surrounded, and there was a lot of empty chairs, so the pews in the church weren't full. They basically surrounded the people that were in the church and began yelling at them. They caused people in that building to have a reasonable fear of being hurt. And and certainly, if even that relatively low standard wasn't met, they were physically obstructing them. Did it stop the service? Yes or no? And the answer is yes. Were people free to leave? The answer is no, because the protesters surrounded them. So again, it's a physical obstruction. And again, then it says, even if all of that didn't get satisfied, there is an or here. So it's all of that, or someone who interferes with or attempts to injure, intimidate, or interfere with a person going to church, right? I'm just going to summarize it here. So even if none of the obstruction is true, and it's like, the people, it was wholly unreasonable that people would feel threatened in that environment with 30 or 40 crazy people yelling at them. If, and it says this is where the or, even if, or interfere with any person, was it an interference? Was this an interference with the church service? That's a very low bar, is my point. So I just want you to understand. So people that come to you, this is a politically motivated thing. Okay, I mean, this to me is an open and shut case for every single person that was there. Now, was Don Lemon a journalist? Right, let's talk about that. Was he a journalist? And I think you got to go. You got to go to Don Lemon's own words. Yeah, I mean, I think that's where we've got to go here, because remember, Don Lemon basically conducted interviews before the attack occurred. He conducted interviews where he said, "Hey, this is what we're going to do," and okay, so here's him planning it. Okay, I'm going to play this clip first. Here's Don Lemon basically talking about what the plan is.
They're getting the operation together. Again, this is an operation that is secret, that they invited folks out. Can't tell you what is going to happen, but you're going to watch it live unfold here on the Don Lemon Show. It may look like MAGA coded, but there's a reason they have so many white people here. I'm just going to be honest. It's because of the operation that they're doing today. It's important to have allies, as they said, white allies here. I turned our camera off of them because they're giving some critical information here. But there we go. Everybody's ready to go. We're on. We're not saying what it is, what's going on, but thank you. Tell us, why are you doing this?
So
this is Nakima Levy Armstrong. She's on the show on Friday.
Levy Armstrong, civil rights attorney, longtime activist here in the community. This is Operation Pull Up, more of a clandestine operation. We show up somewhere that is a key location. They don't expect us to come there, and then we disrupt business as usual.
She is admitting it openly exactly what they're going to do. Right? We are going to, I'm going to get to Don Lemon in a moment, right? But she also got arrested. So she says, and we will, and then we disrupt business as usual. I want to get this very clearly. Down. So she says that, and then let's go back just so we're clear about this. Let's go back to the FACE Act. She says we're going to disrupt business as usual. And 18 U.S.C. 241 prohibits anyone and we'll just right here get to it, the exact sentence, interfering with any person lawfully exercising their First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of religious worship. That's it. And the reason I'm playing the Don Lemon clip, because it's obvious he's in on it. He's there. He knows the whole plan. He's helping by turning the camera away so the plans aren't revealed. He's in cahoots with them. All right, quick break. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. More of the What's Right show after this. Greetings and hello. Yes, I'm here. Sam Mirejovsky behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. What's Right show brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. So, let's get. I mean, there's a lot going on today. It's been wild doing prep today. Every time we start to work on one thing, another thing pops up. So it's certainly been a little bit wild. Top 5 news stories. Of course, we've gotten to Don Lemon. Number 5, I got to get to this. Kevin Warsh, Trump nominated him to be the Federal Reserve Chair to succeed Jerome Powell. Warsh now faces Senate confirmation. He takes over the position if confirmed in May. Big news for the economy yesterday, I mentioned, of course, in the top 5, that Jerome Powell and the current board did not make any changes to interest rates, and interest rates remain high, and lowering them is key for Trump to get the economy moving. May, remember May. What happens? Today, we're 40 weeks out from the midterms. So Trump is keenly invested in jumpstarting the economy, getting things moving, and this number 5 here, this new Federal Reserve Chair nomination will help in that effort. The man who assaulted Representative Ilhan Omar 2 days ago at her town hall has been charged federally. Anthony Kazmierczak, 55 years old, has been charged in a federal complaint with forcibly assaulting an officer and an employee of the United States. By the way, he has a 1989 felony and multiple DUIs. He's probably looking at 3 to 5 years on the federal charges. And I love this. This is great. Look, and nobody is saying anything good about the Biden administration Department of Justice now, are they? I mean, the DOJ is throwing the book at this guy, and they ought to. People are, by the way, doing a lot more to these ICE officers than just throwing a little bit of brown vinegar on them. And they're not, they're like, and are, is anybody coming to their defense? Well, here and there are a few charges, but just pointing that out. Number 3, there's a fascinating claim out there that Tim Walz is setting himself up for an appointment to the Senate. This in a backroom deal with Amy Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar is a senator from Minnesota who has thrown her name into the hat here to succeed Tim Walz as governor. She's running for governor. And Amy Klobuchar, basically, if she were to win it, there's a mechanism by which she then could appoint Tim Walz to her open seat when she is the incoming governor. So it's something to watch. Notice Tim Walz yesterday said he's never running for office again. The wording of it was suspicious, right? I'm never running for office again. But it didn't mean he couldn't be appointed to a 6-year Senate term. So just something to note. Number 2, Mamdani says he's committing to disbanding the New York Police Department unit that polices protests. Quote, "We don't believe that there should be a unit that has both counterterrorism responsibilities and responsibilities to responding to protests." And, again, if you're a socialist Democrat and you're the tip of the spear of the socialist revolution in America, last thing you want are police on standby to disband protesters, right? Because these protests is how you start your revolution. This is something to watch. And of course, number 1, Don Lemon, the story here, the grand jury that was impaneled Thursday delivered a quick an indictment, and I'm not surprised, right? I've read to you straight from the FACE Act. I mean, this is, to me, it's an open and shut case, in part because this idiot put it all on film, and it's clearly he was more than just an embedded journalist with these miscreants. Nakima Levy Armstrong. She is the woman in the video with Don Lemon, and she's the one who literally puts it out on tape that literally says, yeah, we're going to disrupt the hell out of this meeting, which is like a verbatim violation of federal law. Okay, she had a novel explanation for why she's being targeted. You want to play it? We can listen to it. Of course it's racism, of course, but it's even worse than that.
We had belly chains around our waists, and we had handcuffs with bars in the middle. As someone who majored in African American studies, I can tell you that that is the closest I ever felt to slavery in my life. Being shackled as if I was a slave. It is unacceptable and unconscionable, but it's on brand.
Can you believe this? Well, of course. I mean, I can believe it. But this is literally what she said. We had belly chains around our waist. Yeah, they were handcuffed. Of course, they were charged. They were brought in. As someone who majored in African American studies, probably why she's stupid. All right. Didn't study economics, didn't study history. Okay, African American studies. I can tell you that this is the closest I ever felt to slavery in my life. Thomas Sowell wrote in a column back in 1995. I'm going to quote this because I think it's relevant every time I see this type of stuff coming up. It's so great. So Sowell, obviously, great American thinker and conservative philosopher, political philosopher in the U.S. Quote: "If slavery were the real issue, then slavery among flesh and blood human beings alive today would arouse far more outcry than past slavery among people who are long dead." Now, what is he talking about here, by the way? Well, of course, you know that slavery still exists in parts of Africa. This is a fact. So Thomas Sowell writes on further here, quote, "The difference is that past slavery can be cashed in for political benefits today, while slavery in North Africa only distracts us from these political goals. Worse yet, talking about slavery in Africa would undermine the picture of unique white guilt requiring unending reparations." This was 30 years ago. Was when he wrote this, over 30 years ago. This is absolutely brilliant. Thomas Sowell, of course, a great American mind. So I'm just pointing. These people are, and they're going to make themselves out to be the victims. This was the independent journalist Georgia Fort at 6:30 a.m. at her front door. The officers behind the door. I'm going to play this whole thing. She's live streaming to Facebook this pending arrest. Listen to this.
You guys, I wanted to alert the public that agents are at my door right now. They're saying that they were able to go before a grand jury sometime, I guess, in the last 24 hours, and that they have a warrant for my arrest. I've talked to my attorney, and I'm being advised to go with them, I guess, down to Whipple. And my children are here. They're impacted by this. This is all stemming from the fact that I filmed a protest as a member of the media.
This is such BS. If she were outside of the church, filming outside, reporting from the curb, this wouldn't be an issue. She went in with the protesters. Don Lemon went in with he participated in the federal crime, which was the interruption of the church service. What part of this do these morons not get? But anyway, let's continue, please.
We are supposed to have our constitutional right of the freedom to film,
what? To go and interrupt a church proceeding in contravention of federal law? Like, what?
To be a member of the press.
Oh, yeah.
I don't.
You're not being charged for being a member of the press, okay? You're not being charged. And that's, by the way, that's what rankles me about the January 6th arrests, where it was only the conservatives. If everybody who entered the Capitol got arrested for trespass, I get it. And I've talked about this at nauseum. If every person that entered the Capitol, it's a trespass charge. Got it. Okay. Arrest the New York Times reporter, arrest the Blaze reporter. Arrest them all. They treated the feds here in this church attack prosecution are treating everybody the same. This has nothing to do with the First Amendment. It has everything to do with the FACE Act, signed into law in 1994. Anyway, please proceed.
I don't feel like I have my First Amendment right as a member of the press because now federal agents are at my door.
I don't feel that I feel. What are your feelings? You take your feelings and shove them where the sun don't shine. Your feelings have nothing to do with anything. Like, I literally was a bitch, please. What matters are the facts. We have federal law. There are words in the federal law. Those words mean things, and you either participated in or you didn't in a federal crime. Feelings.
Were arresting me for filming the church protest a few weeks ago. Again, I don't have a long time here, you guys, but I wanted you to know, for me, agents are at my door right now. My attorney has spoken with them. I did send a relative outside to talk to them. They're showing some type of documentation, apparently, that they got an indictment from a grand jury. I knew that I was on a defendant's list. I did not publish it because it was under seal. And so we've done everything that we can to try and abide by, the advice of our attorneys. But right now, you guys, I wanted you to know I'm going to have to hop off here and surrender to agents as a member of the press. I filmed the church protest a few weeks ago, and now I'm being arrested for that. It's hard to understand how we have a constitution, constitutional rights, when you can just be arrested for being a member of the press.
I'm actually losing brain cells listening to this person. It is so astonishingly stupid. And every member of the mainstream media that is parroting, just repeating these claims, there's no constitution, Trump is a fascist, and he's like Vladimir Putin now and everything. These people have no shame. This whole thing is, again, I got to take a break. I'm up against the clock. See, this is why I can't wait to just podcast fluid, full hour. That's what we're going to do, Robbie. All right, be right back. Don't go anywhere. By the way, I keep mentioning the disparate treatment of journalists on January 6th, that the Biden administration went out and arrested basically all of the conservatives who entered the Capitol on Insurrection Day, and none of the mainstream media reporters. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Do you know what justification the Biden Department of Justice gave to treating, say, the Blaze reporter differently than the New York Times reporter? Because this is fascinating and well documented. Their official position, the argument that they made here, was that the conservative reporters were cheering as participation. They wrote literally that in the case of independent journalists like Steve Baker, well, he was actually with the Blaze, and Kara Castronova, the DOJ said that their verbal reactions, such as cheering on the crowd or expressing excitement about the breach, as an argument that they were actually part of the mob. And by the way, The DOJ also argued there was a lack of official credentials, traditional credentials. They made that argument too. So I guess you're more legitimate as a reporter working for CNN than you are working for the Don Lemon show as Don Lemon. And here, okay, so if you're going to use the Biden standard, if you're going to say that you're not a reporter, if you're cheering on the criminal activity, have a listen to this.
This is the beginning of what's going to happen here. When you violate people's due process, when you pull people off the street, you start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution, when you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry. And if you remember what the Civil Rights Movement was about, the Civil Rights Movement was about these very kinds of protests. There's nothing in the Constitution that tells you what time you can protest. You can protest at any time. That's the whole point of it, is to disrupt, it's to make uncomfortable. And that's what they're doing. And that's what I believe when I say everyone has to be willing to sacrifice something. You have to make people uncomfortable in these times.
What a complete f***ing idiot. That is literally not what the Constitution says. Like, set aside the fact that they storm into a church and take over, hijack a church religious service. Set that aside completely. What the Constitution says about the First Amendment is that your right to protest and speak is subject to time, place, and manner restrictions. That's the standard. Okay, meaning, and folks, I told you this, several weeks ago now when this whole story was breaking. You are free to call Donald Trump a Nazi. You're able to do that. But if you decide to, at 2 a.m, go into a residential neighborhood and bring a bullhorn and you start yelling, "Trump is a Nazi," waking everybody up in the neighborhood, the police do have a right to come to arrest you, charge you with disorderly conduct. It's not about what you're saying. It's the fact that you're saying it to disrupt people in the middle of the night. The time is wrong, the place is wrong, and the manner is wrong. And the government is allowed to interfere with their speech. So what does he say here? Why am I bringing this up? Look, this is Don Lemon. Look, there's nothing in the Constitution that tells you what time you can protest. Moron. What a flippin' idiot. And that's what you're doing. This is why I believe I said everyone has to be willing to sacrifice something. He is part of the cabal of people that took over this church. He is cheering them on. And by the Biden Justice Department's own standards, now he's a participant. And here's some of the stuff that was going on, right? Here's William Kelly, the other guy that was charged. Listen to him.
People. Why are you not at Whipple every day fighting for the humanity, standing for our people? Where are you? You drink your coffee, you got your jewelry, you have your nice clothes, but what do you do? What do you do to stand for your Somali and Latino communities? All these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You're pretending to be Christians, but we know you live an easy life, don't you? A very easy life while people are starving. Shame.
This is not, again, a protest would be to stand outside the church, okay? Probably get a permit for this many people, to stand outside the church with signs saying, "Shame on Pastor, Bob. Shame on, shame on Trump, shame on ICE," whatever you want to say. When I was in California, I don't see it as much here in Las Vegas, but in California, there would always be some union protest in front of a building, shame on such and such a developer, shame on, coal development, basically, if somebody was building something without everybody there being union, and I give this as an example, they have to stand out of the way. If they decided to set up their sign in a way that was blocking access to a building and preventing people from coming and going, then they would be arrested for obstruction, right? I mean, we all fundamentally understand that you don't have to be a legal eagle. And here, Don Lemon on tape interviewing the pastor who asks him to leave the building, and he continues to put his microphone in his face.
What do you think of this? I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
Okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. I have to take care of my church and my family, so I ask that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. Yeah. We're here to worship. Okay.
I'm here to worship. I'm here to worship. I ask you leave this building. Lemon goes, you don't want us to chronicle? Unless you're here to worship. I'm always worshiping. He was asked to leave the building. And he continues to obstruct the religious proceeding. Don Lemon is dead in the water. Folks, you don't understand how badly he's screwed. Open and shut case. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. By the way, the Ilhan Omar thing's breaking out into the open. Let me tell you, this woman's in trouble too. Don't go anywhere. Folks, let me explain this Ilhan Omar thing to you as succinctly as I possibly can, all right? Now, these are just allegations. These are just musings of yours truly. I mentioned them yesterday on air. I posted something about this this morning as well. Mainstream media now catching up to this. And I want to walk you through it so you understand exactly what this is all about. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, welcome to the program. This hour of the show brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash 800-304-2000, 800-304-2000, samandashlaw.com, because you deserve what's right. Now, Here's where we stand on this. And imagine that you're a congressman. Imagine that you have something of value, which is a certain amount of power by virtue of your position in government. You can steer big contracts to certain people. After all, Congress appropriates. Congress controls the money. Congress controls literally trillions of dollars. It's a lot of power. Now, you have a little crappy salary. What is it, $180 a year or whatever? But you go, hey, I got something here of value. How do I sell it? Now, you cannot, not unless you're basically insane, take money directly. You can't get gold bricks even anymore. Bob Menendez made that go out of style. So what do? Well, you create a dummy company, right? You create a company, say, for example, a winery. And this winery, you create a cool little landing page for it. You make some stuff up. I don't know. Maybe you don't even really file this company, and if you do, it's just a perfunctory, basic, pro forma filing. And you put this out there, and then you approach the people who want to curry favor with you, right? And you say to them, I don't accept any bribes. By the way, I've got this. My husband has this great investment. This wine, would you love to invest $1 million in my winery? Oh, of course. And all of a sudden, investment money flows into this entity. And then what happens? The people that control the entity the family and or the elected official herself, those people end up benefiting from it. They pull money out to travel. They pull money out for car leases, apartment leases, down payments, etc. And pretty soon the company doesn't do well, maybe even folds. And if there is a real company with a real tax ID number, hell, the people that paid the bribes, that's what they were, the investments, into this company can even write off their losses. Imagine that. They deducted the bribes from their taxes. It's a win-win for everybody involved. And that's what's going on. Now these are just allegations, and I'm not accusing Ilhan Omar of doing any of this. But I can also tell you that the mainstream media out there, a lot of these even more alternative networks, don't want to get themselves in trouble by even opining about this. So they're dancing around it. Here's Fox Business today with, this was with Steve Forbes, explaining this a little bit vis-a-vis Ilhan Omar. Listen.
How can his investment firm not afford to pay taxes? It's supposedly worth an estimated $75 million to $150 million. This is really weird stuff.
This is, by the way, the investment firm of the husband of Ilhan Omar, not the brother, not the ex, but the current husband.
Well, weird is not the word for it. There's another word for it called crooked. And that's why we have to have an investigation into this. As you know, the Biden administration started examining her finances and that of her husband. And so surprise, surprise, that investigation went nowhere. But it's amazing how people can go into Congress and then become these entrepreneurial investing geniuses where they come in. She had under $1,000 of net worth and her husband didn't have much, and suddenly now they're multimillionaires. Is there a money laundering operation here? And in terms of the firms themselves, they have a sketchy background. That winery in California that she and her husband own, where did that come from? Where's the wine there? And nobody can seem to find it. So there's a lot of smelly stuff here, and that's why in the American Dream, her version of the American Dream is the Al Capone version of the American Dream, Tony Soprano version of the American Dream, and that is steal it from the taxpayers.
Yeah, this is exactly right. Again, here they even got a little more clever. It looks like, again, the allegation is that Ilhan Omar's husband created this investment advisory group, but it was not an advisory group that had any big offices or anything like that. It was just some sort of a front for collecting money. Steve Forbes goes on to explain.
Yeah, she's also like blaming people, bullying, doing race baiting, race bullying. There's no evidence, public evidence, there's even a winery. She valued it at $5 million. His investment firm is real. It's supposedly real. Its D.C. headquarters appear to share office space at a WeWork, Steve.
By the way, WeWork is a co-location site where you kind of can set up a desk. It's really an address for somebody who doesn't even want to have a full office. And it's, if you've got a business that's just you, it's not saying it's not legitimate to use WeWork, but it's hardly the kind of place where you operate a $30 million investment fund out of.
No track record of his firm managing money, doing M&A deals. No clients we see, investment deals, or any work it's done. They say they do work in 80 nations operating in. There's no SEC registrations for them as investment advisors. What is going on here? This increasingly looks sketchy, both the winery and his investment firm.
Yeah, the winery may not exist, and the firm may be just really a name only, as you say, a WeWork office. Big deal. So that's why the investigation needs to be done. And suddenly all that $30 million, I think you're going to find, I'll make a speculation and prediction, that $30 million came from sources that are illegal, period.
And when he says illegal, and he's calling it a speculation, which I think is the right thing to do at this point, it is just a speculation. Illegal means, in the context of this money getting funneled to a person in government, these are bribes, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about here. Okay, well, I mean, I'm just telling you. A lot of you email me and tell me all the time that Ilhan Omar is as crooked as a dog's hind leg, and I get it. I got your emails. I hear you. And I'm trying to do my part here. I'm working hard behind this thing here. I'm explaining to you why and how. So many people talk about Congress. And by the way, I'll tell you one thing here very clearly. What she is allegedly doing is being done by many other members of Congress. And I guarantee you there are Republicans who are doing similar things. And here is where, I put country ahead of politics. I put my loyalty and love for America ahead of my team, okay? And while Republicans, generally speaking, not all of them and not always, are my team, if there are Republicans that have done things like this, they deserve to share a cell in the same block as Ilhan Omar, whoever else is accused and convicted of doing this stuff. I feel very strongly about this. I am convinced, and Doge was such an important exercise to begin looking at all the waste, fraud, and abuse in our annual budget. And one of the things that I think came out of Elon Musk's it was a purging, of the beginning of a purge of our spending, and there was some progress made, was the enlightenment that came with it. And the realization today that I don't think I had, honestly, 2 years ago, which is that a bulk of our budget, a significant portion of our deficit, is waste, fraud, and abuse. And all these little politicians there and their family members with their hand in the cookie jar, all getting their million here, million there, getting wealthy. And we talked about, everybody goes, oh, Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio, insider trading. That's not operative. That's nothing compared to these elaborate, and in some cases, not even that elaborate, systems of obtaining cash for access, cash for contracts, cash for influence. Read bribes. We have trillions of dollars in debt, so a handful of members of government, of Congress, can walk away millionaires. Trillions for millions. That actually, I should coin that phrase. That's literally where we're at. Trillions for millions. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Folks, don't go anywhere. More of the What's Right show up next.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
I love these liberal manifestations. They're out there saying that Trump's support is collapsing, hoping that if they put it out there, it will happen. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Giddy up, folks. Let's look at some polls here. Just curious, right? Rasmussen daily tracking poll. Let's look at this. Today's the 30th. Where did Trump begin the year? Where did he begin the month? Trump was at 40% total approval January 3rd. And that went, if we go through it here, the January 2nd, 45% on the 5th. And it went up to a high of 47% on the 26th, just days ago, 47% yesterday, and down a nudge to 46 today. I don't think his support is collapsing at all. Do you? That's the tricky stuff with this. It's all these. It's it's all nonsense. And my suspicion is that people are Well, my suspicion is that people are stoked that immigration law is being enforced. People are excited that we have law and order. Have you seen the crime statistics, the murder statistics in LA, for example, dropping precipitously? American cities, American states, our communities are safer. And the only change really has been a robust and consistent immigration enforcement operation. Now, of course, this is a threat to the Democrats' voting machine. And I think, just for a minute, imagine that you are on their side. Imagine for a minute that you have a vested interest in Democrats getting elected and reelected in perpetuity. And you have this robust ICE enforcement operation that is decimating communities that you set up deliberately to ensure electoral dominance. So Trump is going after that, and effectively, it's so effective actually that when you look at the numbers, you realize that in 2020, from 2020, right, the net effect of legal and illegal immigration to the U.S. shifted the House 17 seats. And the Electoral College also 17 seats to the Democrats. That is significant, right? And the risk of losing those 17 seats? Today, that would give the Republicans a sizable majority. But that's just one thing. Then look at this. Yesterday, a DOJ raid on Fulton County, on the election HQ down there. The epicenter of the Georgia election fraud. That's going on. And then, on top of everything, you've got a Department of Justice that is starting to sniff around Ilhan Omar and her shady deals, scooping up Don Lemon just as just for fun at this point. This is why they're all losing their minds. By the way, temperature check. Will you email me if you have been upset with Pam Bondi not being aggressive enough? Do we feel better about her today? I do. By the way, here's Pam Bondi on the arrest of Don Lemon. This was an important statement, and I play it here.
Make no mistake, under President Trump's leadership and this administration, you have the right to worship freely and safely. And if I haven't been clear already, if you violate that sacred right, we are coming after you.
Simple, right? Straightforward. And the other side is losing their minds. They're all just getting the vapors. Here's Brian Stelter, one of my favorite people in the news. Little bald Brian Stelter. Here he is lamenting Don Lemon, and he's trying to support Don Lemon, but I think he inadvertently makes the case for his arrest here. Have a listen.
Has said all along that he was there not as an activist, but as a journalist. In fact, he was saying those words and repeating that out loud when he was inside the church. But he clearly knew something was taking place that day with the protesters. He told his viewers on YouTube to stay tuned because there was something about to happen.
Oh, so he had advanced knowledge? Was he maybe cheering it on, Brian? We're going to go to the Biden Department of Justice standard on who gets arrested in the wake of January 6th. Bunch of reporters in the building, some with the New York Times, some with Blaze News. New York Times gets a pass, Blaze News, and all other conservative outlets all get arrested.
He was careful not to have his camera crew walk into the church until there was a disruption. And I would urge people to go online, actually watch the YouTube video, see how it all went down. I think Lemon's reporting from inside the church was very valuable. As a viewer, I learned a lot about how it happened, how it all went down.
You know who also learned a lot because of stupid video? Is the Department of Justice and the FBI. Don Lemon's the kind of person that would go burglarize a house and videotape it and then try to claim that he was there as a journalist.
All went down. He interviewed some of the protesters in real time, yes. He also interviewed some of the worshipers, and I thought their comments were really insightful about what they went through, about how troubled, how scared they were by the disruption. At the same time, like I said, you learned a lot from the protesters about why they decided to show up there, believing that one of the pastors at the church also worked for ICE. So this video on YouTube, this is the real focal point. I view this in context with the Trump administration attempts to target other perceived critics.
I view this as an attempt. Can I make another analogy for you? Imagine for a minute that Don Lemon or any other reporter happens to come upon a serial killer. Now, this is a newsworthy story, right? The serial killer has been out in the community, terrorizing the community, and the serial killer confides in Don Lemon, saying, "Hey, I'm going to kill tonight." And Don Lemon decides, instead of alerting the authorities, instead of running, the other way, decides he's going to join the serial killer on the hunt for the next victim. And he documents everything, but he doesn't alert anybody, but he's just there as a journalist. And so he go right through the murder. He's there got the camera, he's, filming everything. Well, I'm not making light of serial killing. I'm just laughing at the image of Don Lemon standing there with the camera saying, "I'm just a journalist." Right? Because it's absurd. And don't but Sam me. It's the same thing. They're different felonies, yes, but they're both crimes. And Stelter admits two things: advanced knowledge. Don Lemon knew what was going to happen ahead of time. Second, Don Lemon entered the church and got into people's faces. He was part of the obstruction. He was part of the interference of a religious proceeding. Face Act violation, prima facie, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Don't go anywhere. More of the What's Right Show up next. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, trust me, I'm right on this. If you get into an accident, if you get hurt, don't go at it alone. Get a lawyer, and better yet, get a great lawyer. Get Sam and Ash Injury Law on your side. You don't want to be stuck with the paperwork. You don't want to be handling the mess that is dealing with the insurance company, the adjusters, the paperwork that they drown you in, the forms that you have to submit to the state DMV. All of that needs to be done in a certain way. And by the way, if you don't do it right, you could lose your license. You could get your license suspended. You don't want to be that person. Please, for the love of everything good, get legal advice today. If you've been in an accident, if you got hurt, Sam and Ash Injury Law is the firm to call. 800-304-2000. 800-304-2000. Also visit samandashlaw.com. Tell them I sent you. Sam from Sam and Ash Injury Law. You've got this. One simple phone call gets you taken care of. And trust me, it'll make a world of difference for you, for your peace of mind, and for the outcome. People call me and they tell me, Sam, I should have listened to you. I tried to do it on my own, and now I'm $1,500 upside down. That's real money. That's money you don't want to lose, and it's not right that you lose it for something that wasn't your fault. Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash. 800-304-2000. No money up front, free consultation. It's that easy. samandashlaw.com, because you deserve what's right. All right, folks. Yeah, I'm loving all this reporting. I'm inundated with idiotic clips here that are just fantastic. They're fantastic. Do we have the MS now? He was just doing his job as a journalist.
And again, I keep coming back to this, and the context here is that Don Lemon has been an enemy of the MAGA movement for quite some time. He's disliked by the Trump administration. That doesn't matter. What matters here is he was being a journalist who was doing his job and has now been arrested for doing his job.
But here's how this whole journalist thing works. You can't be involved in a murder and show up and go, but I'm a journalist. I'm a journalist. It's not like this magical identification that gives you the license to break the law. There's no magic shield that comes with being a journalist. You can't participate in the crime. But notice the manifestation, right? If they keep calling him a journalist and saying he's a journalist and saying he has the protection of being a journalist, they will will this into being. It's the same thing what they're saying with Trump's falling approval numbers. And then, of course, you look at the polling and it tells a completely different story. Trump's support rising among Americans at unprecedented levels with Hispanic Americans, which I reported earlier this week. So these are just these are things that are just significant. They're significant. Jim Acosta. Remember Jim Acosta? He was the very proudly a thorn in the side, or so he thought, of the Trump administration the first go around. The White House reporter for CNN. His tweet, quote, attorney for my colleague and friend Don Lemon has released a statement saying Don was arrested by federal agents in LA last night. It is outrageous and cannot stand. The First Amendment is under attack. Abe Lowell, by the way, is Don Lemon's lawyer. Abe Lowell has represented everybody from Jared Kushner to Ivanka to, I think, Hunter Biden. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, Robbie. I think Hunter Biden. Bob Menendez, speaking of bribes and gold bricks, gold brick Bob Menendez, also represented by Abe Lowell. Abe is a good lawyer, a little bit older now, in his 70s, sharp guy, but it's just this whole idea of him being a journalist is so bogus. There is no protected class of journalists. There isn't. It's like not in the Constitution. It's nowhere in federal law. So just let that one go. And Lemon constantly, that day in the videos that he filmed before and after, cloaked himself in these imaginary protections. And I'm not surprised that he wouldn't know this, because Don Lemon didn't even understand that there are time, place, and manner restrictions to speech in the Constitution. That the Constitution has, it's been determined, allows for restrictions on speech based on, time, place, and manner. And you don't have an absolute right to speak wherever you want at any time that you want and disrupt whatever you want, that there are federal laws and even state and local laws that prevent you from trespassing, for example, or interrupt a religious proceeding. Now, it's funny. Lemon, how long has he been at this? 30 years? It's a 30-year career. People are saying that to convict Lemon, the government has to convince a jury that his intent was to assist the terrorizing of parishioners. I don't even think that they'll just have to prove not his intent. They'll have to prove that he in fact disrupted and interfered with a church service, and he's on video doing it. Please leave, says the pastor. He doesn't leave. I did U.S. v. Vaughn. This is a case, the Paul Vaughn case. This is a case back in 2021 where Vaughn and several others gathered in a hallway outside an abortion clinic. This was in the town of Mount Juliet, Tennessee. the group sat in front of the doors in the hallway and sang hymns and prayed. In 2022, the Biden Department of Justice arrested Vaughn. They charged him under the FACE Act and with conspiracy against rights, which is the same thing that the two charges here that Lemon is facing. And the government actually argued that Vaughn's, conversations with police were actually a deceptive delay tactic designed to prevent law enforcement from clearing the scene, that he was blocking the entry to the clinic. And in January of 2024, so exactly 2 years ago, a federal jury convicted Vaughn on both counts. The court basically ruled that a peaceful action of a protester violated the law. So this idea, what is obstruction, right? Just being part of a group that makes the exercise of a right more difficult, particularly if it is unreasonably difficult, is a federal crime under the FACE Act. It has been thus ordered, and this is the law. So I'm just trying to look. Maybe I'm going too deep into the law here today, but I think it's important. I think it's important to know exactly all these facts, right? I think it's important to know the facts. I think it's important to understand the law. I think this weekend you're going to have conversations with people who are talking to you about this and trying to act like they're these, legal eagle geniuses. And really, at the end of the day, everything that you are hearing about this from the mainstream media and from people supporting Lemon is just phony, and it's nonsense. And then you, of course, have weak-minded conservatives who are kind of, this is unnecessary, and why is Trump doing this and that? I let Don Lemon go and spend money. Abe Lowell is not cheap. I think he's thousands of dollars an hour. Let Don Lemon spend a little bit of his money, the little he doesn't have, to fight this. And, Biden used this law. Biden DOJ used this law to go after people they didn't like, so nobody was up in arms about it then from the mainstream media. I don't know, everybody needs to hear, take a giant chill pill. All right, Sam Mirejovsky on the What's Right show. Back in a moment. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Okay. I don't know if you saw this, but apparently the Stop ICE website, this is the website where all of these insurrectionists have been organizing their efforts, got hacked. And apparently the passwords, the logins, the names, locations down to coordinates were hacked. Over 100,000 people and the users were all sent to the FBI, to ICE, to HSI, and more. Some guy in this figuring, his name is Sherman Austin, who I guess is part of the breach or who had facilitated the breach. It's not really clear to me. But he's an activist, right? He's a developer of this, but it almost seems like he messed up and allowed for this breach to happen. I mean, surprise, right? These people aren't as competent as one would think, but he had a previous conviction in 2001 for distributing bomb-making instructions via his hacktivist site. So there's some odd history. Anyway, just checking in on how everything's going. By the way, Hennepin County sheriffs responded overnight to some protests, and when I mean protests, really attacks on ICE officers, and were able to put the matter down. So there's been some some movement on this. You notice that, to me at least, it seems with Don Lemon's arrest, no one's really giving the protesters any oxygen. What if one of the reasons, and the Trump administration, obviously Trump himself, very keenly aware of the media cycle, of the news cycle, what if they just sort of dragged their heels a little bit with Don Lemon, and then took a few days, then convened the grand jury, presented the case, and then held back the indictment and released it today, just before the weekend, to see to it that anybody talks about this weekend is not Alex Preddy, is not Renee Good, is not anything related to ICE, but rather to journalists protecting Don Lemon, national treasure. Right? I mean, I'm saying that it's an interesting thought. By the way, Stephen A. Smith sat down with Mayor Jacob Frey of Minneapolis and asked him a simple question. He asked, how many illegal immigrants are there in Minneapolis? And Frey answered, I don't know. That's pretty wild, right? That's pretty insane. I just thought I would throw that out there. By the way, the head pastor, Jonathan Parnell, of the church that was raided by Don Lemon and his cohorts, responded to the arrest with this statement, quote, "We are grateful that the Department of Justice acted swiftly to protect City's church so that we can continue to faithfully live out the church's mission to worship Jesus and make him known." True North's legal attorneys wrote, quote, "The freedom to worship God without fear of violence and intimidation is a fundamental right that defines who we are as Americans. True North Legal and City's Church are grateful that the DOJ is committed to upholding that freedom and is holding the agitators who invaded the church accountable." Now, you remember, this is a lot of this going to be talked about. One of the things that is important here is the impact statements of the victims, right? I mean, the victims here of the attack, they've described, and they put this in the affidavits, really harrowing scenes. Victim 4. They're not named here, obviously, informed agents that members of their parish attempted to retrieve their children from the child care area located downstairs, but the agitators were blocking the stairs, and the parents were unable to reach their kids. Another victim informed agents the aisles are already narrow to begin with, and the agitators who occupied the center of the sanctuary made it nearly impossible for parishioners to get out and leave. Taking you back to the FACE Act. Obstructing, impeding. Right? This very low standards that seem to have been met here. No, I'm letting you know. I mean, this is the conspiracy to deprive rights, which is the 18 U.S.C. 241. 2 or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person, okay, in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right, privilege secured to him by the Constitution. 2 or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate. Well, satisfaction. And then, of course, the FACE Act, which is by force or threat of force or by physical obstruction intentionally injures, intimidates, or interferes with any person lawfully exercising or seeking to exercise the First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of religious worship. I mean, it's pretty clear, right? Victim number 5 later expressed fear that the agitators may have guns underneath their jackets. Additionally, when the agitators began shouting, all the parishioners could hear was shoot. Remember, these idiots went in there, hands up, don't shoot. Like, terrifying. Another victim recalled one agitator was threatening, aggressive, and intimidating toward parishioners. This agitator was screaming and getting in people's faces. Well, we played that clip, right? That's the William Kelly guy. Additionally, this agitator was screaming, getting in people's faces, to include women and young children. The agitator continued to scream in the faces of young children when they were crying. The affidavit wrote, the agitators forced parishioners to flee the church out of a side door, which resulted in one female victim falling and suffering an injury. So there's at least one known physical injury. Yeah, I have no sympathy here whatsoever for Don Lemon. And this is where I'm going to direct my final commentary here for the week. Folks, we are winning, and now is not the time for our knees to buckle and for our fortitude to weaken. We've got this. Trump is finally exercising his executive power. And it's happening in this term in a way that it never did in the first. And this insurrection against us, against the president we voted for, against actually, in effect, our Constitution, right? Because that's what the left wants to cancel. This is all being put down in real time. And we hear narratives, we've heard narratives over the course of the last year, but even just in this past week about Trump, backing down, about Trump blinking, about the Department of Justice and ICE, just kind of melting under pressure. And none of that is true, to the least. In fact, quite the opposite. So I think, it's an important time to reflect back. I think we have to give Trump and the administration a little bit of credit here. The things that you've wanted to have happen are in fact happening. And they're happening now as we speak in real time. So, we got to stay strong and be wary of the conservatives out there right now who are lobbing, grenades internally. And I had my problems with Kristi Noem and some of the deployment of the messaging this week, early in the week, after the Alex Pretty shooting. But we have a great, and I mean a great, Department of Homeland Security right now. And as Tom Homan guy keeps saying, it's an absolute star. Okay, folks, I got to run. It's time. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email. At What's Right Sam on X. Follow me there. I'll be putting up commentary over the weekend. And folks, let's just keep the faith. We got this. We're making huge progress. Sam Mirejovsky on the What's Right Media Network. Have a great weekend.